What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel and another edition of Movie Mondays. So usually we look at 4 different films here that I watched in the past week, and we give them a thumbs up if they were any good and a thumbs down if they were shit. And that's the format of the show. So let's go ahead and jump right in with the first one. And on this list we have Cherry, which is the American crime drama directed by the Rousseau brothers. It's based on an autobiographical, that's a tongue twister, right? A book by basically, the character that Tom Holland plays in this movie, and, the things that happened to him in his life from, falling in love and then joining the army as a medic and then coming back with some undiagnosed PTSD and then getting addicted to opioids and stuff during the opioid crisis, and consequently then essentially becoming a bank robber to fund this habit. And that is the breadth of the story, I would say, as it follows him during this part of his life. And as mentioned, Tom Holland plays the lead role of, I guess he is Cherry, I guess is the character's name. And Ciara Bravo is the female lead, and then of course there are some other actors in it as well. But definitely this movie is carried by the performances of these two, especially I would say Tom Holland, who does a lot of the difficult scenes, with, I would say, conviction, and comes across as very genuine, and I mean, he's a charismatic guy in it. And I have to say, I'm a huge fan of Tom Holland, and it's nice to see him in something other than a Spider-Man costume. So as you can tell, I like this movie a lot. I think in the box office this has not done exceptionally well, and I do understand it to a degree, but from a music perspective, I think that the music in this was very good. I think the cinematography was great. It was definitely interesting, some of the things that the Rousseau brothers tried to do with the camera work and things like that. You'll know what I'm talking about when you watch this. There's one particular scene which is quite funny. But yeah, I definitely give Cherry a thumbs up, and I would consider watching it again now that I've seen it once and sort of have made up my mind about it. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it for you to watch it. The second one is the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So, of course, this is a reissue of the Justice League movie, which has actually come out a bunch of years back. Famously, Zack Snyder had started it, and then when it got to post-production, unfortunately, he had to leave production due to a personal loss that he suffered. And Joss Whedon was brought in, and what then essentially we received as Justice League was a breakaway from Snyder's view, and so with some very key differences in certain cases, but mostly just like a lot of stuff being sort of left out. Now, I did make some notes for this, and basically, I mean, it's a lot of this is subjective. So let me just start off by saying, if you're a Justice League fan, if you're a DC fan, then I think that you'll like this. Let me take it one step further and say, if I were to place these two next to each other, the Whedon cut and the Snyder cut is the superior movie between those two. But I still don't think it's a good film. But that's just a me thing. And my reasons for that being that I do feel that the pacing is terrible. It is super long, and I do understand why they made it this long, because they essentially, there was so much stuff left on the cutting floor when they did the post-production the first time around, that they just brought in a whole bunch of stuff, and it's very much created in this like act-based epic where each one of the heroes is introduced, and so then we end up with the full team at the end. So it's just under 4 hours, I think slightly over 4 hours if you take into some of the introductions and stuff at the beginning by Snyder himself. And I mean, funnily enough, I feel like if you were to take half of the slow-mo out of this movie, it would get down to a 2-hour running time for sure. But I mean, it's Zack Snyder, so it's gonna have a lot of fucking slow-mo, right? But I still think that what this movie suffers from, and if you were to compare it against obviously the obvious franchise to compare it to, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what you have there is that you have the core members of the Avengers being introduced in their own movies beforehand, some of them multiple own movies beforehand, in the case of Iron Man, for instance, before we actually saw the movie that brought them all together. And so there was time to develop those characters, and so. Whereas, unfortunately, with Justice League, they ended up doing it the other way around, where Justice League, the movie itself, is actually used to introduce a bunch of these characters. So, that's obviously what you see with the Snyder Cut then, where a lot of time is devoted to Cyborg, who nobody knows. If you're not coming from a comic perspective, then this movie is your first interaction with him, really. And less time is spent developing, for instance, Batman and Superman and so on, because they have all had their other movies. They've all been present in other movies. I think that it suffers because of this bloating and because of this trying to fit so much in and trying to go, but this is actually what Cyborg is like, and did you know this about his character, and this is what Flash is like, and did you know this about his character? And I think it comes off. I love comic movies in general. I love that type of entertainment. I read comics, I watch comic movies. So the 4 hour, I was going to watch that in any case, but I think an average person that's trying to consume this 4 hours is a little bit long. And I don't mean to just, run up against the time of this thing the whole time. There's also some funny, strange scenes in it which don't make a lot of sense to me. Again, I don't want to spoil anything because this is the new content that was added. So, go ahead and watch it. But I still don't think that it works as a great introduction to the team mechanic of the DC extended universe or cinematic universe or anything like that. And I suppose we have to see what comes after this, right? But I will say one thing, and that is that it's a good thing that we managed to get this, though. And it shows you what, because I think very much the reason why we even got to see the Snyder Cut was because of this massive public outcry for it and fans, making petitions and asking for it and all of that. So it's cool that people were able to get what they wanted. And I'm glad about that. And if you're a fan of this and that you really enjoy this movie, then I say power to you. Because if you like this, then you'll love this movie. And so in that case, I do give Justice League, the Snyder Cut, a thumbs up, because like I said, if I was to choose which one was the superior one between this and the Whedon cut, I would take this one. But I still just don't think it's a good movie. But I like it for what it is, and so therefore I'm willing to give it the thumbs up. I also think that in any case, if you were a Justice League fan or a DC fan, or you were gonna watch this, you were gonna watch it either which way. It doesn't matter what I say. So yeah, but I would definitely give it a thumbs up. Then if we go on to number 3, we've got a horror thriller that came out in March of 2021, called The Devil Below, and directed by Bradley Parker. And basically what it's about is first of all, it's a bunch of unknown actors. The only face that I recognized in this movie was Will Patton. And basically it's this group of geologists that go to investigate a collapsed mine and consequently a kind of like a town that disappeared because of it. And they get taken there by this woman who is really, really trying very hard to be Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. And it's essentially like this kind of like creature feature horror kind of thing. And it's bad. It's really not, it's not like a fun kind of bad. It's not like a fun creature feature kind of bad. It's just the acting is really stunted and stilted. I don't know if stunted and stilted works, but it's very it's literally as if somebody's holding a fucking thing up behind the camera out of shot where they're reading their lines off it. So the acting is really not that great. The story is kind of weak as well. They make a lot of, stupid decisions that people in horror thrillers make in any case, but this is just, on another level. And yeah, I didn't really enjoy it at all. Again, I'm a fan of these kinds of movies. And every once in a while, you'll come across one that comes out of the blue and you didn't expect it at all. And even if it's like I said, a creature feature is very tropey. It's usually like, the characters in it, it's almost like a team, right? So you have the guy who's like good with tech and so on, but he's a bit of an asshole, and then you have the guy who is like all broody and dark, but you can see he's kind of like the hero, and then you have the token guy who you just know he's gonna fucking die first. And there's a lot of these tropes and stuff that I really enjoy, and that they try to recreate in this movie. But the story is just like super uninteresting. The premise is not that great, and like I said, the acting is so bad that it's actually off-putting to essentially. Maybe I should turn this fucking light on. My God, it's actually off-putting, and you can see. Is actually off-putting to the point where it actually spoils the movie for you. So definitely for me, The Devil Below gets a thumbs down, and unfortunately I cannot recommend it. That then brings us to our fourth and final movie out of the four new ones that we can discuss, and that is The Block Island Sound. That's a really weird name for a movie, and this is also a horror thriller with a little bit of a science fiction-y twinge there. Also from March 21, and it was actually directed by two brothers, Kevin and Matthew McManus. Now, what this essentially is it's this guy and his sister, and they both come from this small little island by the coast, and some strange things are happening on this island. Dead fish are washing up, birds are falling dead out of the sky, and all of that. And that's all I'm going to tell you. But I really enjoyed this movie, and the reason why I enjoyed it is because and I hope I'm explaining this right, but it subverts your expectations. Like, you go in watching this thinking it's going to be about something, because you've seen a bunch of horrors, you've seen a bunch of thrillers, you've seen a bunch of science fiction, you've seen a bunch of all of this shit, and right from the beginning there's certain things that are happening in front of your face, and you're starting to think like, oh, okay, I see how this is gonna go, I see that's what this is gonna be about, it's obviously this, or oh yeah, that's gonna happen or something, and then that doesn't happen. Then it doesn't happen at all the way that you thought it was gonna go. And that's really refreshing when a movie is able to do that to even like the most jaded horror fan, or someone that's watched like thousands of these kinds of movies. So I really enjoyed it for that. And I don't know any of the actors in this movie. I don't know the director of this movie. I don't know anything else that they've done, but I really I thought it was great. Especially the sound was fantastic, which is really important in horror movies, to just get you that extra like X factor of scaring the shit out of you. And this movie just really got that. So if it's a small independent kind of feel movie, right? It's definitely not like a blockbuster. This doesn't have like a massive amount of money behind it. And that just makes me appreciate it for what it is even more. But I can wholeheartedly recommend this, and I'll give The Block Island Sound 2 fucking thumbs up. Go and watch it. It's on Netflix. You won't be disappointed. It's gonna mess with your head a little bit. Anyway, that's the 4 new movies that I watched last week. This time it was definitely like all almost brand new. They're all from like February or March of this year. But as usual, during this part of the video, we come to what I call a classic, and that's just talking about a movie that I watched as a kid or from my past, or maybe something that I've, even if it came out last year, but I've watched it like 50 fucking times because I think it's great. But it's essentially a movie that I consider to be, highly rewatchable, and something that I would suggest to someone to watch if they haven't watched it yet, and also something that I continually rewatch, during my life, for different reasons or anything like that. And the movie today is Sleepy Hollow, which is of course the Tim Burton live action movie, not the fucking series on Disney Channel, that starred Johnny Depp. It's from 1999. It came out in November of 1999, so right before the millennium was supposed to kill us. And it had a bunch of people in it. It had Christina Ricci in it, Casper Van Dien, from Starship Troopers, situation. It had Christopher Lee in it, who's fucking always great. And then, of course, it had the other Christopher Walken in it as well as the Hessian, the villain, the Headless Horseman, essentially. And yeah, it's basically... I don't think I have to explain essentially what it's about. I think it's a fairly well-known movie, but this Ichabod Crane, Johnny Depp's character, is sent out to this small place in the fucking boondocks, or in the mountains, or in a remote area called Sleepy Hollow, that is being plagued by this headless horseman that's basically busy killing off people and fucking chopping their heads off, and he has to go investigate. And his characters, of course, doesn't believe in any witchy hocus pocus or, anything funny like that. He's very scientific, almost nerdy in a way. And so they figure he's like the perfect guy to go and debunk this shit and go figure it out. So, I don't think, I mean, it's difficult to say if this is Johnny Depp's best movie. I don't think it's his best movie or his best performance. But for me, it's definitely in top 3 because it just seems like he had so much fun with this character. And just in general, the movie itself seems like it had to have been a lot of fun to work on. And it's held up remarkably well in terms of the fact that it's basically, 21 years old now, 22 years old. And it's still highly watchable and genuinely, fun. And if you haven't watched this in a couple of years, it's definitely, time to make another trip to Sleepy Hollow and check it out. But it's yeah, like I said, it's just a fun, it kind of feels like what it would be like to be inside Tim Burton's head. That's how I've always felt about Sleepy Hollow, because famously they had built up the entire town as the set. So when you were playing your character or whatever on that set, you were basically almost like in that town because they had built the entire thing up. So obviously it's really interesting what Tim Burton was able to do with set design and costume design, everything like that. If I'm not mistaken, this did win a art direction Oscar. It was nominated for and it won an art direction Oscar. So of course that indicates it as well. Now, famously also, when Christopher Walken was given the character of the Headless Horseman, he revealed to Tim Burton and said, okay, but I got a bit of a problem. I can't ride a horse. I've never ridden on a horse. I fucking don't know how to do it. Now, of course, the Hessian, the character of the Headless Horseman, rides on a fucking horse a lot, right? So what was then essentially done is Ray Park was brought in as not only Christopher Walken's stunt double, but basically in all the scenes where Christopher Walken was the Hessian, obviously it was him, and in all the scenes where a horse was being ridden by that character, it was actually Ray Park. And that's Ray Park as in fucking Darth Maul, Snake Eyes, that fucking Ray Park, Toad from X-Men. So yeah, it's just really funny for me to think that the Headless Horseman is also Darth Maul. So yeah, I thought you might enjoy that. But that's Sleepy Hollow as my classic. I actually feel like I'm gonna watch it tonight. I haven't watched it in a while, so I definitely feel like it. Just reviewing it now has made me just want to check it out again. But in any case, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for sticking around. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any movies that you'd like me to review, or any movies, any of these that you've seen, and what your opinion was of them. Anything that you'd like to suggest to me to watch. If you really like this kind of content, please go ahead and please go ahead and subscribe. Sorry, my tongue went awry there. Because I do produce this video every week where I look at some movies in the back. Plus, I also bring a whole bunch of other content to the channel, so you're bound to find something you like there, and mostly just because it means a lot to me. So without any further ado, again, thanks for coming by. Have a great morning, have a great afternoon, have a great evening wherever you are, and until next video, fucking cheers.